Hello and welcome to Spectrum Television News at 4. I am Uyai Anyekan, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Let's take a look at the major stories. Senate House ready to pass Budget 2024 before December 31st. Nigerian Air Force denies carrying out bomb attack in Kaduna village. Plus, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu graft trial resumes in Israel in midst of Gaza war. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Thanks for joining us. First in the news this afternoon is from the legislature, where the National Assembly has laid out plans to meet the December 31st target for the passage and signing of the 2024 appropriation bill in line with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's request. President Tinubu, while presenting the bill and laying the budget on Wednesday, urged the lawmakers to give it speedy passage to ensure the continuation of the January to December financial cycle. Ministers, heads of departments and agencies, security chiefs and chief executive officers of institutions to which funding is appropriated have been summoned by the lawmakers for a parley tomorrow on how to achieve the target. Reports say the meeting will set the template for the process to pass the 27.6 trillion naira budget of the renewed Hope administration. The Senate committee chairman said the plan for speedy passage of the budget will be threatened should the executive introduce a fresh request. In a related development, the House of Representatives has held a town hall meeting on the 2024 budget in Abuja. This is coming about a week after President Bola Tinubu presented the budget proposal to the National Assembly. The proposed budget seeks to achieve job-rich economic growth, macroeconomic stability, a better investment environment, enhanced human capital development, as well as poverty reduction and greater access to social security. Reports say prominent personalities, including the House Chairman of the Appropriation Committee, Kabir Abubakar, his deputy, Iduma Enwo, and immediate past National Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, Iyola Omishore, among others, were present at the event. Kabir, while delivering his welcome address at the gathering, said the purpose was to foster the involvement of citizens in the appropriation process. Away from that, the Nigerian Air Force NAV has denied being involved in a bombing that left many villagers killed at Tudumbiri village in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. Recall that earlier, reports alleged that a jet operated by the Nigerian Air Force had dropped a bomb yesterday when villagers gathered for Maulud celebration, leaving several casualties. Reacting to the claim, the Nigerian Air Force, through its spokesman, Air Commodore Edward Gabwet, noted that NAV has not carried out any air operation in Kaduna within the last 24 hours. Gabwet further asserted that the Nigerian Air Force is not the only service operating combat armed drones within the region. In a separate development, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has faulted plans by the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, to spend 15 billion naira on a befitting residence for the Vice President of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima. The group also decried the 2.8 billion naira budget for publicity, stressing that the spending was unnecessary and wasteful. SERAP expressed its opposition to the budgetary allocations in a statement by its Deputy Director, Kolawole Oluwadare. Oluwadare urged the Senate President Godswill Akpabio to use his constitutional authority to reject the plans by Wike to spend such huge money on what he described as unnecessary and wasteful, especially at a time when the country is battling a rising debt profile. The group also disclosed that a sum of 7 billion naira had been initially allocated for the purpose of building the vice president's residence, and it would not hesitate to institute legal actions against the National Assembly if it fails to stop wasteful spending and continuous borrowing by the federal government. Moving on to education, where the management of the University of Calabar has announced an increase in the university's tuition fees for undergraduates by over 100%. In a statement by the institution's spokesman, Effiong Eyo, it said the upward review of the fees was taken at an emergency meeting of the university's Senate. The release disclosed that the implementation of the upward review will take effect in the 2022-2023 and 2023-2024 academic sessions. According to the statement, freshers, returning students, and final year students for the non-science course are expected to pay 111,000 naira, 91,500 naira, and 114,000 naira respectively. In addition, they are also to pay 36,500 naira, 21,500 naira, and 21,500 naira respectively as third-party dues. Similarly, fees for science courses were increased to 155,000 naira, 125,000 naira, and 148,000 naira respectively for freshers, returning students, and final year students. They are also to pay 38,500 naira, 21,500 naira, and 21,500 naira respectively as third-party dues. The management noted that the increment was necessitated by the current economic realities and the need to maintain the academic standard the university is known for. In another development, the Gombe State Governor Muhammadu Yahaya has proposed 207.7 billion naira as the 2024 appropriation bill. Reports say the fiscal document is tagged Budget of Continuity and Consolidation. The document has 87.2 billion naira as recurrent expenditure, representing 42%, and 120.5 billion naira as capital expenditure, representing 58%. Presenting the document at the State House of Assembly today, Yahaya said the budget was geared towards consolidating on the gains of his first term in office, urging the House to scrutinize it in a bid to provide the needed insight. Back on the home front, the Sector Commander, Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, Akwa Ibom State, CC Matthew Olonishaye, has warned road users, especially motorists, against speeding, wrong-way drive, and indiscriminate parking. This is as 5 persons were confirmed dead and 11 others injured in a fatal auto crash along the Calabar Highway in Cross River State, according to a statement signed by the Public Enlightenment Officer of the command, Paul James. Olonishaye attributed the cause of the accident to speeding, noting that the accident could have been avoided if the motorists had adhered to safety regulations. While reiterating the need for safety consciousness among drivers, the sector commander advised passengers to ensure that drivers were not ignored when deviance to road safety is observed. In the meantime, the Excellence Community Education Welfare Scheme ECEWS in Akwa Ibom State has called for sustained action from authorities and stakeholders to rid gender-based violence GBV. Speaking with Spectrum Television, the called for more men to speak up and women to be empowered in a bid to end gender-based violence by 2030. Recall that the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence began on November the 25th and will end on December the 10th, 2023. Our correspondent, Blessing Dixon, tells us more.
In 2022, 17 million Nigerian women were reported to have experienced gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is violence directed against a person because of that person's gender. 16 days of activism have been dedicated to campaign against gender-based violence. It kicked off from 25th November and will end on 10th December, which is Human Rights Day, under the theme Unite, Invest to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls. Stakeholders are calling for action in order to end gender-based violence.
The 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is a 16 days. We started with on the 25th of November, which marked the day of the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, which we end on the 10th of December, which is the Human Rights Day. We raise awareness in every which way we can, just to make people understand that gender-based violence is a crime, rape is a crime, molestation is a crime, and if caught, will be sentenced. Everybody. Gender is the male, gender is the female. It's gender-based violence. Just that the statistics have proven that women are more at risk. Well, but the male are also at risk. The only thing is we feel the male are not reporting. The government should step in, allow women to have leadership roles. Let the women, get the women involved, both the male gender and the female, get them involved. Also, assist, put the girl child in school. Education is empowerment, information is power. So these are ways that we can also help to, eliminate violence against the girl child or the male child.
Gender, male or female, please speak out, seek help, shout for help. We are actually here to actually help and curb the menace and reduce the incidence of gender-based violence. We're actually hoping that we move to a stage where there will be equality and equity for other sexes, both male and female. Women will be empowered to actually, assume positions of authority so they can actually empower themselves and reduce the menace of gender-based violence. And men will actually, love women and protect them and equally see them as equals so that our society should move forward for better and for better. Thank you, sir.
In Uyo, Blessing Dixon, Spectrum Television News.
We're moving on to Africa, where the president of Guinea-Bissau issued a decree today dissolving the parliament after an attempted coup in the West African nation. President Umaru Sissoko Embalo said in a communique that the date of forthcoming legislative elections will be set at the opportune moment in line with the constitution. Still in Africa, a fourth candidate of the presidential election, Deli Sesanga, has dropped out of the presidential campaign in the Democratic Republic of Congo to support former governor and opposition candidate Moise Katumbi. Reports say Sesanga's withdrawal is seen as boosting opposition unity after former Prime Minister Metata Ponyo and two other candidates, Seth Kikuni and Frank Diongo, earlier endorsed Katumbi. They will be competing against the incumbent president, Felix Tshisekedi, who is vying for a second term in office. According to reports, campaigns for the election started 2 weeks ago and will end on December the 18th, 2 days before the December 20th election. Meanwhile, United Nations Humanitarian Agency UNOCHA has said that death toll from Somalia's ongoing floods has risen to 110. The agency said more than 1 million people have been displaced and 2.4 million people impacted across 36 districts. UNOCHA also warned of a high risk of disease spread following reports of suspected cases of cholera and acute watery diarrhea in the state of Heshbel and Gamdong. The agency added that only 30% of those impacted have received help, but at least 37 boats have been deployed to deliver supplies or evacuate those trapped by the flood water. We move now to the foreign scene, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption trial resumes today, despite the country's continuing war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. According to Israeli officials, the trial was suspended 2 months ago due to the Palestinian militant group Hamas's bloody, October 7 attack on southern Israel, in which 1,200 people were killed and 240 more kidnapped. Netanyahu, leader of Israel's right-wing Likud party, is accused of fraud and breach of trust over his relationship with Hollywood producer Anon Milken and other wealthy personalities. According to prosecutors, between 2007 and 2016, Netanyahu allegedly received gifts valued at 700,000 shekels, including boxes of cigars, bottles of champagne, and jewelry, in exchange for financial or personal favors. Netanyahu, who is Israel's first sitting prime minister to stand trial, denies any wrongdoing, saying gifts were only accepted from friends and without him having asked for them. Still on the foreign scene, the governor of Russia's Voronezh region said today that a Russian general has died while deployed in Ukraine, the latest high-ranking Russian military figure to die during the 21-month offensive. Russian telegram channels with sources in the army said he was killed at the end of November after he stepped on a mine away from the front line, implying it could have been a device laid previously by Russian forces. Meanwhile, Moscow rarely speaks of their losses in Ukraine, but they have acknowledged the death of several high-ranking officers. He did not specify the circumstances of Zavadovsky's death. The announcement comes as Russian troops are trying to seize Avdiivka, an industrial town in the eastern Donetsk region of Ukraine that has become one of the most contended points on the front line. Still to come in the news. Haaland faces FA charge over referee criticism after Spurs draw. Stay with us for details of this and more after the break. The federal government says it will soon commence disbursement of funds under its presidential palliative program targeted at alleviating the impact of the fuel subsidy removal. A statement by the Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Doris Uzoka Anite, says the programs consisted of the Presidential Conditional Grant Program and the Presidential Palliative Loan Program. It stated that in the Presidential Conditional Grant Program, the federal government will disburse a grant sum of 50,000 naira to nano businesses across the 774 local government areas. For the Presidential Palliative Loan Program, it said the federal government would disburse 75 billion naira to micro, small and medium-sized enterprises across various sectors, and 75 billion naira specifically to manufacturers. It added that the loan would be administered to the beneficiaries at a single-digit interest rate of 9% per annum. In the meantime, the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) has offered a complete waiver on penalties and interest for overdue taxes, contingent on full principal payment before December 31st, 2023. This announcement was made through a statement issued by Dare Adekombi, the special advisor to the chairman of FIRS, Zach Adedeji. The chairman highlighted that the agency typically imposes penalties and interest when companies fail to fulfill their tax obligations as stipulated in existing tax laws. However, Adedeji noted that the forgiveness of piled-up penalties and interest was in recognition of the challenges that many taxpayers have faced in settling their outstanding tax liabilities. On our health news, the federal government has approved the recruitment of 200 medical and clinical personnel for the Federal Medical Center FMC in Idiaba, Abeokuta, Ogun State. The move is part of the government's effort to replace health workers who have recently migrated to foreign countries from the FMC in Abeokuta. The FMC medical director received the approval to hire new workers in a letter from the office of the head of service of the federation. According to the letter, the FMC is granted a waiver to employ 100 medical personnel on the consolidated medical salary structure, as well as 50 nursing officers and 50 nursing superintendents on the consolidated health salary structure. Still in health, the House of Representatives Committee on Health has announced that the Federal Medical Center, OWO, will likely be upgraded to a teaching hospital. This was disclosed by the chairman of the committee, Amos Magaji, during an inspection tour of the facility at the hospital. The decision is followed by a meeting of the committee with the management of the hospital led by the Chief Medical Director, Layasu Adegwal, staff and labor unions. He commended the management of the health facility for maintaining high sanitary standards and making good use of the little resources they have to provide qualitative health services to the people. Mogaji stressed that the issue of employment and replacement of workers in the health sector must be taken as an emergency. Moving now to sports, where news gives us that Erling Haaland could face the English Football Association sanctions after his reaction to a controversial refereeing decision during Manchester City's 3-3 home Premier League draw with Tottenham on Sunday. Recall that the prolific striker vented frustration on social media after the referee halted play as teammate Jack Grealish raced towards goal late on. Haaland had been fouled earlier but regained possession to tee up Grealish before the whistle. Initially, referee Simon Hooper signaled that he was playing the advantage, but then blew his whistle when Grealish looked set to race clear on goal. Still in sports, world number one Scottie Scheffler won the Hero World Challenge in the Bahamas as Tiger Woods finished 18th in the 20-man field on his return from injury. American Scheffler's bogey-free 4 on the round of 68 meant he finished on 20 under a sealed 3-shot win from Austrian Sepp Straka. Woods, competing for the first time since withdrawing from the Masters in April, ended level after a round of 72. Reports say the 15-time major champion is expected to be played once a month in 2024. On our entertainment news, comedian Ayodeji Richard Makun, professionally known as AY, has revealed why he is now scared of cracking certain jokes. Recall that the comedian had in October tendered a public apology to singer Davido over his insensitive jokes about Davido impregnating many women with his small manhood, while he had been trying with his larger one for over 13 years. However, speaking in his latest interview with media personality Toke Makinwa, AY blamed bloggers' sensationalism for taking his jokes out of context. He added that some hurtful reactions to his jokes get to him as a human, hence he is now cautious about certain jokes. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do well to follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTVLive.ng. This has been Spectrum Television News at 4. I am Uyai Anik, and thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.